Hey guys, so welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm super excited for today's topic because it's definitely something I am up against, and I think that I'm not the only one, and this may provide help for someone else. And I think there's definitely been some strategies I've picked up over the last few months with this topic, and I just think it can be helpful. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into this. Make sure you subscribe, you like, and if anything relates to you, do leave a comment. So yeah, today's topic is all around overthinking. And guys, before I even begin, even to do this video, right, there was like a lot of overthinking going on. Like even the setup, I was thinking like, oh, are things nice? Like, is that plant like, is that plant nice? Like, this is the real honest truth. I like had to change so many like locations as well. But yeah, like this, it just shows that like, even when someone is talking about overthinking, there's even a lot of things that they could be overthinking as well when they're talking about overthinking. But yeah, so when it comes to actually the definition of like overthinking, essentially is when we're thinking about something for too much and too long, excessive periods, and we don't actually need to be given weight to whatever that thing is. At the end of our day, our thoughts are so powerful. Like they have the ability to change, help, shape who we are. And sometimes, right, when we allow the negative thoughts to like keep on consuming us, that as a side effect, we could be slowing down our own growth, or we could be allowing ourselves to, not actually go out and achieve like everything that we should and we can do, because we're constantly playing situations in our head, whether it's like related to like our career, our future, or even something as small as like, living your best life. Or do you want to, like, for example, when it comes to social media, you may even want to post something, but in your mind, you're like, I mean, I'm not too sure about that, or this one, I'm not too sure about the leg in that pose, like it's standing like this, I'm not too sure. All these thoughts in the grand scheme of things, like, do they actually matter? No. But as a result, what happens is that, we're likely to be more stressed, or we will procrastinate on things that we should be doing. Other people who, are not exactly as talented as us will go and do those things because they're not allowing those thoughts or those fears or those limiting beliefs to stop them. Also, overthinking is just likely to like cloud your judgment, because you struggle to think rationally. You struggle to like allow yourself to be at one and just think like, actually, like, hold on a minute, like let me see this through. You don't, because you're constantly playing and allowing those thoughts to run around in your head. And lastly, I think it just like reduces our ability to be creative, because we just stop ourselves. We like almost like paralyze ourselves to the point where we're not allowing our mind to like just breathe and to think freely. Also, I've seen a lot like how overthinking that can cause so many of us just to procrastinate on the things that we should be doing like ASAP. But instead we could actually just be like, waiting for the right moment, or just overthinking like, will this work, will I fail? And that stops us. But I think the beauty of it is that when you're able to understand this may be an issue, how do we go about this? That's when actually you're able to solve the issue, or just find ways to overcome it, not stop you from progressing. So actually, how can you overcome overthinking? So I think there's a few things we can do to make sure that we overcome overthinking. Number one, when you want to overcome overthinking, is giving whatever the issue is language. And this doesn't only relate to like just overthinking, but just in life. When you have an issue or you have a problem, identify it and understand like fully what is it. So I think it's so important, right? This doesn't only relate to overthinking, but just like when we're trying to overcome our doubts, our fears, limited beliefs, right? Give whatever it is the language, understand fully, because what is it? Because then you can develop like the mechanisms to actually help you overcome it. For example, let's just take like when it comes to overthinking, right, about our future, and it could be when someone says something about being in a certain position, and then you let your mind wander like, oh my gosh, how long will it take me? I'm not too sure. Then you need to understand, okay, that role is exactly what I overthink about, and I need to make sure that I build the mechanisms. So whenever I build the mechanisms around that, so when you have those triggers around you, when someone says XYZ, you're still able to move and to control yourself and allow yourself just to not let those thoughts really overtake you. Number two, manage the narrative, manage the story that you're telling yourself. Okay, so let's take again the example of that promotion or that role that, when someone says something about it, certain triggers happen, like your heart beats faster, you're already drumming up situations in your mind, and you tend to find yourself just overthinking and not being able to focus, or just procrastinating certain things because this is on your mind, right? you have to manage the story you're telling yourself and understanding why. Why is it that when this happens, why is it when someone talks about that, why are you feeling that way? And then combat that with understanding, right? Again, with the role, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? Because when we actually think in the big scheme of things, you realize that, a lot of the things that we obsess over, right? Essentially, because you understand that, a lot of the things we obsess about in the grand scheme of things, right? They're not going to add up. In 10, 15 years' time, will we still be overthinking about those things? No. So why are we overthinking now? That's the real question. We don't know. But essentially, when you are able to, manage the story, manage the narrative that you're telling yourself when it comes to that particular thing, right? That gives you the confidence to, move forward and not be stuck in that thought for such a long time. I think another thing is so important when it comes to overthinking is to understand sometimes you have to go back in your past. Sometimes, in life, to move forward, you really need to go back and unlearn certain things, or just dig up certain things to understand, why do you behave that way, or why is it when this happens, this is a trigger, and sometimes it could be childhood traumas, or just, a situation that happened in our past that has shaped us, and unconsciously we don't even know. So if you tend to overthink about certain things, and it relates to maybe how you grew up, or how you responded in certain situations growing up, or how you was responded to, I think then it's important to just make sure that you understand, you give that language, and you go back into your past and try to solve that. And I think that goes hand in hand with even attending therapy, or just reading around the subject to make sure that you know how to deal with this in the best way, to make sure that situation does not hold you up from doing what you need to do. Next, the fifth important thing when it comes to overthinking is spot it in the moment. Don't allow it to progress. Don't allow it to hold you back or stop you. When you see the thought coming in, because you've gone through the following steps of you understand the trigger, you've given it language, you're managing the story, don't allow it to stay. Instead of, overthinking, why don't you tell yourself a different story? If you're saying that is it possible for me to literally I don't know, progress into a certain position, why isn't it not? Spot it in the moment and manage that with actions. Maybe focus on the actions instead. Don't let your mind wander to those situations or scenario. What is the actionable points that you could be doing now to ensure that you progress and potentially one day could be in that position. And I think the last thing, right? The most important thing, I think, focus on what you control. Focus on what is in your hands and what you have the ability to control. Because again, a lot of the time when we overthink, it's even scenarios that are unlikely to happen, or they're not happening. So we have to focus a lot on what's in our hand, what can we control, what can we do to be the best, or make sure that thought does not happen. When you actually focus on the now, you don't allow yourself to procrastinate, and then over time you see that you're managing those thoughts through actions, which is the most important thing. It's not only words, you're actually doing things. So naturally those thoughts kind of die out, because everything you're doing around you goes against those thoughts. Now, a practical tip that really helps me when it comes to overthinking: journaling, write it down. That has been such a game changer for me, because essentially you're doing all of the following steps. You're managing the story, you are giving language to what you are experiencing, and that is the best. I think that is the best way to make sure that you can manage your thoughts, because it's so beautiful. In a few years' time, you can look back on those moments and even be like, wow, I was really thinking XYZ, but look how far you've progressed. So journal it, write it down, give it the language it deserves, and also allow yourself to free write, because that is also overcoming overthinking, because you're allowing your mind to wander. Just allow yourself to just write whatever you want to write, and not worry about XYZ, or making it perfect, or making it make sense, or grammatically correct. I think that's so important. Free write. There's a saying don't think it, just write it. Just write it down and allow yourself to be free. So essentially, this brings me to the end of this video of overthinking. I hope some of the practical steps, or just identifying what you can do when you feel like you're overthinking has really helped, because it's something that I'm going to be referencing back to. I'm not just only putting this out here to help others, but I know that this is something from time to time I'm going to be coming back to and making sure that I give it the language, that I manage the story, that I understand that I'm not going to let these thoughts stop me from doing what I gotta do. So yes, guys, that is the end of the video. Please do let me know if there's any things that really stood up to you, and yeah, until next time, bye.